Well, obviously a disappointing loss. Looking back at the film, I kind of feel the same way how I left. Felt like we had an opportunity there in the fourth, and we lost momentum of the game, and I put that on me. So told the team that this morning as far as what we've improved on thus far this season and the steps that we've taken in every game. I think that you can see it in some aspects, and then there's other aspects in which we need to continue to focus on and continue to grow and not look past it because it's there, and get ready to play a really tough Toledo team that plays great defense and flies around, really physical, are holding people to 14 points per game, and an offense that is really talented and really explosive, and they get the ball to their best players and utilize their strengths. So we got to get ready to play a tough one here at home and really have the same type of preparation as we have had the last 2 weeks, because I thought that part was really good. Our focus was great through those 2 weeks.
Just what do you feel like your defense did best on Saturday?
I think they played to their leverage. Some of the things that I mentioned to them today, just the better execution because our eyes were in the right spot. We communicated better. There was just cleaner. It was just the communication was cleaner. The edges were getting set. The focus throughout the game. We missed some tackles that led to some explosives, but at the same time, it didn't look like it did the week prior versus a very similar talent in Ole Miss. So we defended the shots really well because our eyes were in the right spot. And then we just need to continue to improve on our initial reads and our footwork at the top of drops and coming out of breaks and attacking to our leverage and keeping our leverage and working together with one another, keeping our pads down up front just consistently throughout a game, regardless of how tired we are. There was definite highlights for sure. Our defense played well enough. I felt like at times to win. I'd love to get some more turnovers, but to hold that offense consistently, especially with some of the turnovers that we unfortunately had, it was a positive. We think it's a positive if a team kicks field goals on you, and obviously when you turn the ball over inside the red zone and you can put yourself in that situation to respond with the right attitude. Our guys have done that multiple times this season. So there's bright spots surely there, and I feel like overall we tackled pretty much better than we did the last couple of weeks.
And then just how much of scoring just the 3 points in the second half do you feel like it was you guys not executing, or what kind of adjustments did Virginia make at the same
I think
time?
it's a little bit of both. I think it's them coming out and maybe playing with adjustments in some capacity. I think a little bit of it is we need to put our players in better situations. I can't look any further than us as coaches to come out and operate and maybe have new wrinkles in the second half that weren't shown in the first, and take easy chunk yardage plays that are there just to get some rhythm going, because we've struggled in the second half coming out. And if we say that the middle eight's important to us, the middle eight is, for that, or half of that is coming out in the second half and executing, especially when we've been either ahead at half or slightly behind. There's an opportunity there to make the most of it, and we just haven't thus far outside of some of the games that we played well in. So we need to get back to that. I felt like for the most part we did a good job of executing in the first half. We didn't give enough opportunities maybe to our offense. Probably should have used some tempo and gotten into a little bit more rhythm in the second half. We just didn't, and that's on me.
And we've seen it a few times last week, but a lot more of the kind of the 3 running backs into the time. What is it about that you think maybe helps open up the run game a little bit? Is it just kind of the deception of, you're not sure who the ball's going to?
Are you talking about when we put them on the field at once?
Yes.
Yeah. I would say that every time you get bigger in your personnel, and running backs and tight ends are a part of that, the defensive play call shrinks, and if you don't show that all the time, they're they don't know what to expect, because we could break the formation with Maxwell and Angel and Kirby all out wide too. So structurally, from a formation standpoint, you could be really multiple, and the defensive calls shrink naturally. And so if you see that on film and you see only a couple coverages or blitzes versus certain looks when other teams go into those type of personnels, it allows you to kind of narrow your focus on what to expect.
Some of just kind of the fourth quarter errors with the false starts and obviously the fair catch in the end zone. I mean, what do you kind of do to coach that in terms of how do you address that, and how do you kind of coach that out of some of the mentality type stuff?
Yeah, I think It is a focus thing. We practice with the crowd noise. We practice with a huge speakers, 3 speakers hovered over the huddle. But we need to get to a point where we have those speakers at their indie session with, going on a verbal cadence so that they're forced to have to work through that in an individual segment, just not when it's in a team segment. Because there are some mishaps there with just like our players not being able to focus through the play to not making the proper reads. But yeah, we got to be able to work through those things, and we got to continue to grow. We're going to play in tough environments, and honestly, defensively, hopefully that feels like that for us, to where the offense can't hear their calls because of how loud it is here. And that's kind of what we're hoping for with on Dad's weekend coming up here. So excited for a home game, and we got to continue to build.
Getting to this point in the season now where you have 3 of your remaining 5 games at home, how valuable is that going to be for you after so much travel, sandwiching around a bye week and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think it's good to play at home. And I think there's a part of it, I said last week, there's a part of it when you go on the road, it's just you and the team, right? And so you get away from outside distractions or, all the things that you're kind of asked to do on a typical home game. But overall, I think it's great for our players to play in front of our fan base and play in front of our students and play in front of, family that can come in and visit them and stay for the weekend. Those things are important, and they're not needing to fly all the way across the country to see us play. Overall, we're going to play who's on our schedule and put our focus on the team, not necessarily where, because it's the same dimension of a field. We got to get ready to play regardless of who we're playing.
Toledo seems to be a team that prioritizes defense and running the football, like you prioritize defense running the football. When you're getting ready for a matchup like that, is it any different preparing for a team that has maybe a similar philosophy as you versus a team that would say, spread it out and run an air raid or something like that?
Yeah, I think every time you look at somebody, what they do offensively, and you see the structure of how they plan on winning games, it changes how you prepare yourself defensively. You're preparing against not only just players, but structural formations that they don't have an advantage in, or a run count, or just a schematical advantage. There's that aspect, and then that it allows you to think more about how they're going to attack you. And I don't mean just offensively, like their whole game plan because of what they plan to do. So yeah, there's surely thought that's put into that. Defensively, I have somewhat of a background. Their defensive coordinator, I learned a ton from at Florida Atlantic. His name's Ross Watson. So I know that they're well aware of. I know how good he is and how knowledgeable he is, and we got to come out and execute because that's what it will come down to.
Post-game, Zevi said he was taking full accountability for the offense's performance in the second half. How important is that type of leadership after a loss like that?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, he touches the ball every single play. I think it's our position as a coach to, we got to put him in situations where those reads don't get gray. Obviously, every time he touches the ball, he wants to make a play. We just got to minimize that error. And in all honesty, everybody should feel like they have a part in it. That's a part of being a part of a team, that we all take a sense of ownership in the failing that happened. And the more we can do that, the more that we look for the things and how to improve rather than pointing the finger. We're pointing the thumb. So I think it's really important if you want to be a really connected team that everybody takes ownership and how they could have done something regardless if the world saw it as a big play or not. There's plays hidden inside of there, whether it be blocking through the whistle or finishing a run or making a tackle or punching at the ball. I mean, anything can happen on any given play. And so that's always been my stress, is which play are we willing to take for granted is the play that can win or lose you the game. So you can't take any of them for granted.
You mentioned the strides that your defense has made in tackling. Well, obviously, we see Tucker and Caleb's numbers, but who on the defense has been maybe the most pivotal to kind of preaching that and getting everybody bought in on the same page? And how has their leadership kind of rubbed off on the rest of the defense?
We're talking about just leaders on the defense in general?
Yeah, and in terms of also just the tackling side of things.
Well, I don't think anybody plans to miss tackles. It's just something that happens. They all go into the course of a week with a focus on how they need to improve. If we show them their mistakes, they got to take ownership. I do feel like there's a good-hearted group in the whole defense as far as them all wanting to execute for each other and not just individually. But obviously the spark naturally comes from some of your best players, the leaders, the guys that have been in the system that have had success defensively with us. But guys that stand out are Bobby and right now, Bobby and Bryson and Tucker and Cale Reeder and Colby Humphrey and Kenny, and there's a lot of players. We rotate so many guys, and I think that they all have a pivotal part. You guys think about starters more on who hits the field first. I try to think about if they're going to get in the game, I'm viewing them as a starter. They just may be in a different rotation than what the world sees them as, but if they step on the field, they're expected to play and have the same type of confidence as the guy that may be stepping on the field prior to them.
Obviously, losing is tough, but especially with a group of 18 to 23-year-olds, what did your mentors teach you about kind of leading a room and handling a streak like this?
It's the most I've lost in years. I can't remember the last time I lost 4 games in a season. So, yeah, I think taking it as life's an average. There's ups and there's downs. It's how you handle it. It's how you respond. It's never as good. It's never as bad. Even when you win games, you see things that are glaring mistakes that may drive you nuts, but you won, and so the winning kind of masks the initial pain until you watch the film. But if you just taken it all for a body of work, there's been plenty of games that I've felt like we've lost after we've won the game just based off of the execution inside of it and wanting more out of the execution and having a higher standard than what the actual, what the results showed maybe. So I think it's really important to take it for what it is. I think defensively we played good in this game. We got multiple 3-and-outs throughout the game. We didn't get a turnover. I called the timeout there. That was one thing I regret, is calling the timeout to try to challenge the fumble recovery, because I felt like we had it. Our guys were adamant that we had it. The headset was adamant that we had it. At the same time, I got to value the information that's kind of, it's a scrum in there. And I know I'm getting off topic, but yeah, there's certain things in that game I definitely regret. That was one of them, because I could have saved 40 seconds there at the end to give us another opportunity. There's definite things that we're going to learn from and take from every single game. But overall, back to your deal, I think it's really important to look at the game in itself, every single play, and say, did you execute? Don't just live by the result, because sometimes the result goes in your favor.
You mentioned, looking back at your own decisions and what happened in the fourth quarter, but how do you personally handle something like that? And just what's your mindset for when you're going back and reviewing, just as you would hold, your own players to account, how do you hold yourself to account?
Yeah, I think part of growing is taking ownership and failing. It's the first thing I said to the team this morning, and I felt like this loss is on me. We spiraled in the fourth. I could have controlled it. If I don't take that timeout, when I did take the timeout, there's another timeout sitting there, and then I took another timeout to try to grab the guys collectively to try to calm them down, because we were spiraling. But at that point, that was just a stupid mistake, because we were already backed up and we couldn't go much further. So the lack of inability to hear, to understanding, to what we were at, to the amount of penalties that we had backed up, it just kind of felt like it spiraled, and I could have stopped that to try to regather the team and recollect their focus. And having done that, maybe we were able to, have success earlier than the 3 penalties that happened in a row, the 2 false starts and then the holding that led to somewhat of a debacle. Maybe we flip the field, maybe make them drive the field. And then the other situation is having those timeouts at the end of the game. I know it all happened on top of each other, but once I got the first down inside the 2-minute, it's over with, right? And I didn't have any more timeouts because I was trying to get an opportunity to get the ball back with what I believe would have been 1:15 left on the clock. So had we had executed at the end there and got a stop, that's what we would have got the ball back for, but with clockwise. But I think if I would have utilized the time properly, we would have had another opportunity. So those are things that kind of haunt me, as well as just the overall mindset that, just because we win a half, it's not good enough. The focus has to maintain, the pressure has to stay on them. Overall, in the first half, we did a really good job, but you don't win games in one half, and you don't win games in three quarters. We got to finish.
Your catch situation at the end, is that something that Kirby just kind of did on his own?
No, it's the lack of communication, and that's on me. We did not want to bring the ball out in that situation. It should have been addressed really in all situations because they had a 4-second op or they were kicking it out of the end zone. So with that height of a ball, they were already at the 25-30 when the ball is caught in general, right? So noticing that and just telling them that we're not returning any of them should have happened, and I didn't. And in that situation, the communication happened as far as don't take it out. And Kirby, when you watch it, is trying to grab the attention of Leighton not to take it on the fair catch. Hey, fair catch it. That's how it happened. It's not that he doesn't understand the rules. It's just Leighton didn't catch that. He was thinking the ball's caught in bounds and take it out. And the message needs to be clear, and I need to put myself in the huddle to control it at that time. I didn't. It got verbalized, and he just kind of missed that, and that's how fickle the game is, just a small thing. Would we fair catch a kickoff? Everybody in the country fair catches a kickoff. I see some of these comments and stuff. I'm like, do you not watch enough football to realize that that's what the T signal is as well? You could let it bounce, right? But it could take a bad bounce and bounce the opposite direction, then the ball's live. So I don't know if we were getting it to the 25 with where they were at on the field and where the ball was being caught, is my point. And so that would have put us in a bad situation that I would have been losing my mind that we would have brought the ball out. It was just the lack of communication of what went from the huddle to the players in that certain situation. And so that's on me. And they heard that this morning too, and there'll be a clear line of communication moving forward and expectation in every single situation, especially in those, because those are critical.
Sounds like you're more concerned with kind of the penalties and the timeout situation that led to you guys getting backed up at the end. But the run that ends up in the safety, like in hindsight, were you okay with that play call, or what was your read on that situation?
Well, I think it was a downhill run call in the situation in which it was in. Looking back on it, maybe we should have just snuck it by how close we were. At the same time, the timeout shouldn't have happened to start with, and then we came out and they kind of blitzed into it. So I think there's a sense defensively, when you're in that situation, you're just trying to get the ball back at times, right? And you're not trying to give up an explosive play. So at times you don't want to end up being extremely aggressive with 99 yards behind you because one missed tackle goes to the house, and now you're in a worse situation. So a little bit mindset-wise with how far we were, just trying to get it out of our own end zone because you'd like to punt from at least the 4, not with your heels on the goal line. That's the typical 14-yard mark on a punt, right? So it's +4 from the goal line, and that's where we'd like to punt from before our punt really starts to change. At the end of the day, yeah, I would take blame for kind of all the mishaps as far as the not executing a 1-yard run in the middle of the field. And so frustrating, absolutely. How we lost, more frustrating. The fact that we were really in the driver's seat throughout the game, we kind of stalled. And it's a combination of staying out of rhythm. We only took so many snaps in the second half. We need to put our players in the ability to have rhythm inside of the game and maybe create and have more creativity inside of things, especially with where we're at right now.
And then a couple guys asked you about Jalen leaves obviously with the injury, and then Devin did not play again.
Who'd you just say?
Jalen Caldwell.
Okay.
And then Devin as well. What's their statuses right now?
Jalen and who?
Devin Ellison.
Devin's healthy as of right now, and Jalen still trying to hear what the doctors say later today.
You're talking a lot about these 2 close losses, games you could have won and come out on the short side, but how can that make this team better? Taking away from those games where you have an opportunity there in the fourth quarter to win it, how do you parlay that into getting better and coming out on the right side of games?
Yeah, I think it's looking at your body of work of what you had done. I mean, we were competitive in both games. There was bright spots in both games. you can't get hung up on being close. You got to really put your focus on the things that in every phase of the game where we need to get better at, and then taking the steps forward to like taking ownership of that as a player and saying, I can't make this mistake again. I think it's as simple as that. It's not as easy as that at times, but because you got to put in the work. And right now in the course of a season, there are certain things that you're limited at getting better at technically just because of the wear and tear on their body. But overall, I do believe that we've taken steps in many things that we have put an emphasis on. You know, we got better, and naturally, when we put our emphasis on the red zone, we got better in the red zone. We could put our emphasis on tackling, we got better at tackling. You know, it's kind of just trying to tie it together, and there's only so many hours in the day. You can't work everything every single day. The guys got to take ownership and start to think that all of the things are important, which I know that they do. We got a good group that cares, and overall, it's about the process in itself of doing it the right way, regardless of the outcome. Because I could tell you what doesn't get you there is by giving up.
Obviously, you talked really when you first got your introductory press conference just about kind of the hockey line changes on the defensive line. Obviously, that becomes a bit tougher when you have some of the injuries up front. Did you feel like there was at times maybe late in that game where there was just a little bit of guys being gassed just because you didn't have as much depth as you desired?
I can't say that I did. I felt like the D-line, obviously some of the players that are out, I think Ram's a great player, and to have him out, obviously that hurts you. The inability to trust players, I don't really feel that as much. You know what I mean? I think they know what they're doing. It's getting them in and getting them out. You got to put them in the situation to have success as far as their skill set. There's a different skill set on 1st and 10 than there is 3rd and long. But overall, I felt like our guys defensively, we did a solid job. We got some hits versus a good quarterback. I didn't think the quarterback killed us at all with his legs. He's killed a lot of people with his legs. He was really accurate against other programs. He wasn't the most accurate versus us. We were able to execute. They had, 301 yards total offense. They ran the ball for 122, so a little higher than we would like. And then, they threw the ball for 179. Some of those are some broken plays where we didn't execute the scheme because it was a good scheme on their part as far as like stock can go, with the quarterback running at you, with the wide receiver blocking you, and then he snaps you to the ground and goes vertical on you. You're thinking as a defender, get off the block because he's blocking me. They had 2 of those on us. So, and one of those was an explosive play. So those are the things that we can learn from and just see how people have game planned us and where they've had success, and try to assure that those things don't happen again.
And then where do things stand with Ram, Mike, and then even Caden for this week in terms of availability?
Ram, Mike, and Caden. Still waiting to hear on Ram, hoping that he can go this week. As of right now, he won't practice today. We're going to try to get him back moving on Wednesday and Thursday. Mike is progressing with treatment and questionable right now. And who's Caden Beatty? Yeah. Caden will be out.
And then just with Christian as well? On going to offense, obviously.
Going to get the report here later on Christian. I know he was in earlier, so we'll find out. Probably doubtful for Christian.
So what's stopping Devin from getting on the field right now, and what kind of importance do you place on getting him out there?
Well, it's a great question. I think a lot of this stems from you got to be healthy, and you got to be go through a week's worth of practice staying healthy. You got to know what you're doing when you're out there, and we've gotten into a rhythm right now where players that are at practice, that are going through practice, that get the reps, we got to trust that they know what they're doing because they're the ones that are taking the reps. And then when you get reps, you can't make mental mistakes. You got to be able to execute. You got to do the little things right, and that's kind of where we're at.